There is a saying that every civilization in the galaxy teaches its children. If humans offer peace, accept it. If humans offer friendship, protect it. But if humans ever stop talking, run. Most believed it was only an old legend, a story from a forgotten age. No one alive had ever seen humanity wage a true war. For nearly 3 centuries, Earth had been known as the galaxy's greatest peacemaker. Human engineers rebuilt shattered worlds without asking for payment. Human doctors crossed star systems to cure diseases that had wiped out entire civilizations. Human diplomats settled conflicts that had lasted for generations. They became the species everyone called when hope was fading, but almost no one remembered. Why humanity had chosen peace in the first place. History had buried that truth, and humanity had made sure it stayed buried. My name is Ambassador Daniel Hayes. If you are hearing these words, then I am already dead. Everything that happened after my execution was exactly what I feared, not because humanity was weak, but because I knew what was locked beneath the ice of Antarctica. I spent 27 years serving the Terran diplomatic corps. I negotiated peace between enemies who had hated each other for centuries. I stopped wars before the first shot was fired. I believed every problem in the universe could be solved with patience, respect, and understanding. Even when others laughed at me, even when they called humans naive, I never stopped believing until the day the Galactic Senate summoned me. The invitation looked ordinary. The Council requested humanity's presence for what they called a final discussion regarding interstellar security. Nothing seemed unusual. The Senate held meetings every month, but something felt wrong. The message carried no signatures. No personal greetings. No diplomatic codes. Only a single sentence. Attendance is mandatory. As my shuttle approached the galactic capital, I looked through the window at the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. The Senate sphere floated above the planet like an artificial moon. Thousands of ships surrounded it. Warships. Far more than I had ever seen gathered in one place. I contacted Earth immediately. This is Ambassador Hayes. Can anyone explain why there are military fleets around the Senate? The response came after several seconds of silence. We don't know. That answer chilled me more than the ships outside, because Terran intelligence always knew. The shuttle landed inside Hangar 12. Normally, Senate officials greeted every ambassador with honor. This time, no one was waiting. Only armed guards. Their weapons were already powered. One of them stepped forward. Ambassador Daniel Hayes? Yes, you will come with us. No welcoming committee, no ceremony, no security briefing. The guard didn't answer. He simply pointed toward a long hallway. I had attended more than 200 Senate sessions. I had walked these halls so many times that I could almost navigate them with my eyes closed. But today, everything was different. The banners of the member worlds had been removed. The civilian staff had disappeared. Every corridor was filled with soldiers. Nobody spoke. Nobody smiled. Nobody even looked at me. For the first time in 27 years, the Galactic Senate felt less like a government and more like a battlefield waiting for the first shot. The guards escorted me through corridor after corridor without saying a single word. Their boots echoed against the polished metal floor, perfectly synchronized. Every sound reminded me that something had gone terribly wrong. I tried contacting Earth again. No signal. That had never happened before. The Senate sphere was equipped with the most powerful communication network in known space. Even during solar storms, Terran channels remained active. Someone had deliberately blocked them. I looked at the nearest guard. "You've jammed my transmitter." He kept walking. "I have diplomatic immunity." No response. "You know this violates every treaty your council ever signed." Still nothing. Silence had become their answer. After several minutes, the hallway opened into a massive chamber, unlike anything I had seen before. The Hall of Representatives. Normally, it was a place of debate. Today, it looked like a courtroom. Thousands of delegates filled the towering seats that circled the room like the walls of an ancient arena. Military officers stood behind nearly every representative. Heavy weapon platforms had replaced ceremonial banners. Defense drones floated silently beneath the ceiling. Every exit was sealed. Every camera in the chamber pointed toward a single platform in the center, toward me. The moment I stepped forward, the whispers began. "That's him. The human. The last diplomat. They actually sent him alone." Some voices carried fear. Others carried hatred. A few sounded almost disappointed. At the highest level of the chamber sat the 12 members of the Supreme Council. For years, I had negotiated with many of them. Today, none of them would meet my eyes. Only one finally spoke. Supreme Chancellor Vorik slowly rose from his throne. His deep voice filled every corner of the chamber. "Ambassador Daniel Hayes of Earth." I nodded. "I am present. You stand before this council to answer for the crimes of your species." The words struck me like a physical blow. Crimes? A holographic display ignited above the chamber. Images flashed across the air. Destroyed warships, burning colonies, dead civilians, worlds reduced to ash. Gasps spread through the audience. I stared at the images in disbelief. I had never seen most of them before. "What is this?" I asked quietly. Vorik answered without emotion. "Evidence." I looked closer. Something wasn't right. The ships displayed Terran markings, but the hull designs were decades out of date. The fleet formations ignored every known human doctrine. Even the command codes painted across the vessels were wrong. Someone had worked very hard to imitate humanity, but they had made mistakes only another human would notice. I took one slow breath, then another. Finally, I looked directly at the council. "These images are fabricated." The chamber exploded with angry voices. "Liar! Murderer! Human propaganda!" Vorik raised one hand, and silence returned. "You deny the evidence?" "I do." I stepped toward the holographic display. "That cruiser uses an engine model humanity retired 112 years ago." I pointed toward another image. "That tactical formation has never been used by the Terran Navy." Another. "Those identification codes don't even exist." The chamber grew noticeably quieter. Several delegates exchanged nervous glances. I continued. "Whoever forged this evidence understood human technology, but they did not understand humanity." For the first time since entering the chamber, I saw doubt. Not in the audience. In the faces of the council itself. Someone had expected me to panic. Instead, I had found the cracks in their story. A heavy silence settled over the chamber. For several long seconds, no one spoke. The delegates stared at the holographic evidence, then at me, then back at the council. I could almost hear the doubt spreading through the room. Then Chancellor Vorak smiled. It wasn't the smile of a leader. It was the smile of someone who had already decided the ending. "You are an impressive speaker, Ambassador Hayes," he said calmly. "But this hearing was never about convincing you." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. It was about convincing them. He turned toward the thousands of delegates. "The human ambassador claims the evidence is false. Fortunately, we have witnesses." The massive doors behind the council slowly opened. 3 figures entered the chamber. I recognized them immediately. Ambassador Celine of the Arcturi, Governor Rax of the Kel Dominion. Fleet Commander Issa of the Viari Union. All 3 had negotiated peace treaties beside me. All 3 had once called me a friend. Celine refused to look at me. Rax kept his eyes on the floor. Only Commander Issa met my gaze. There was fear in her eyes. Real fear. Vorak gestured toward them. "Tell the Senate what you witnessed." Celine's voice trembled. I saw a Terran battle group destroy the research colony on Vesper Prime." Rax spoke next. "My convoy was attacked by human warships near the Crimson Rift." Then Issa stepped forward. The entire chamber waited. She looked directly at me. For a brief moment, I thought she was going to tell the truth. Instead, she lowered her head. I confirmed the council's findings. A wave of outrage swept through the Senate. The delegates shouted over one another. "Humanity must answer. They've deceived us for centuries. End this now." I closed my eyes. Not because I believed the accusations. Because I finally understood. Those 3 hadn't come here willingly. Someone had forced them. Threatened them, or worse. When I opened my eyes again, I spoke softly. "What did they promise you?" The shouting stopped. I looked at Celine. "They threatened your homeworld, didn't they?" A single tear rolled down her face. I turned to Rax. "They said your people would be next." His fists tightened, but he said nothing. Finally, I looked at Commander Issa. "You don't fear humanity. You fear the people sitting behind you." Her breathing became uneven. Vorak's expression hardened. "Enough?" He slammed his staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Ambassador Daniel Hayes, you have been found guilty." I laughed. Not loudly. Just enough for the nearest microphones to hear. "You never held a trial. You never investigated. You decided the verdict before I arrived." Vorak's eyes narrowed. "The sentence is death." A stunned silence spread across the chamber. Even delegates who hated humanity looked shocked. Executing an ambassador was forbidden under the oldest laws of the galaxy. It had never happened, not once. I slowly straightened my jacket. For the first time since entering the Senate, I wasn't afraid. I thought about Earth. About the oceans. About children laughing in city parks. About the promise humanity had made 300 years ago. That no matter the cost, peace would always be given one final chance. I had fulfilled that promise. If this was its price, I would pay it. I looked directly into every camera broadcasting across the galaxy. "My name is Daniel Hayes. I came here carrying a treaty." "You answered with an execution." He took one steady breath. "Remember this moment, because when history asks who destroyed the peace between humanity and the galaxy, it will remember your names." The execution platform beneath my feet began to glow. The light beneath my feet grew brighter. A circular field of blue energy surrounded the platform, locking me in place. The execution system was ancient. Every civilization in the Senate recognized it. It had been built thousands of years earlier to execute pirates, war criminals, and tyrants. Never a diplomat. Never an ambassador. Across the chamber, thousands of delegates watched in complete silence. Some looked satisfied. Others looked ashamed. A few simply looked away. They could not bear to witness what they had allowed to happen. High above us, dozens of broadcast drones hovered in perfect formation. Every inhabited world in the galaxy was watching live. Chancellor Vorak slowly raised his hand. Daniel Hayes of Earth. By unanimous decision of the Supreme Council, you are hereby sentenced to death. I smiled sadly. Then let history remember that the last human diplomat died asking for peace. Vorak lowered his hand. Execute him. The energy field exploded into blinding white light. For one endless second, I felt nothing. Then everything disappeared. The cameras went dark. The chamber fell silent. The last diplomat of humanity was gone. 8,000 light years away. On Earth. It was early morning. Children were walking to school. Workers were drinking coffee before another ordinary day. Farmers were watching the sunrise over quiet fields. Then every screen on the planet froze. Phones, televisions, public displays, even the holographic billboards above the largest cities. The final moments of Ambassador Daniel Hayes appeared everywhere. No advertisements interrupted it. No news anchor spoke. The world watched in complete silence as their ambassador smiled in the face of death. As he offered peace one final time. As the Senate executed him. When the recording ended. No one moved. No one spoke. No one cried. For exactly 60 seconds, the entire human civilization became silent. Traffic stopped. Factories shut down. Spaceports suspended all departures. Military bases stood perfectly still. The silence spread across every colony, every station, every ship. It was as if billions of people had stopped breathing at the same moment. Then. Every screen changed. Only 6 words appeared. Diplomacy has officially failed. Nothing else. No explanation. No speech. No declaration of war. The message remained for 10 seconds, then disappeared. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, nearly 4 kilometers. Below the surface, a facility that officially did not exist detected the global signal. For 300 years, its doors had never opened. Its systems had never awakened. Its guardians had never spoken. A calm, artificial voice echoed through the frozen halls. Confirmation received. Protocol Aegis terminated. Protocol judgment authorized. Massive blast doors trembled for the first time in centuries. Ancient power flooded through forgotten reactors. Red emergency lights illuminated endless corridors carved into solid ice. At the center of the underground complex, a single cryogenic chamber slowly unlocked. Mist poured across the floor. Inside stood an old man with silver hair and cold gray eyes. He opened them without surprise. As if he had known this day would eventually come. A young officer waiting outside the chamber stood at attention. His hands were shaking. The old man stepped forward. His voice was calm. Tell me. The officer swallowed. Sir, They killed Ambassador Hayes. The old man closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, every trace of kindness was gone. So they finally chose war. The young officer stood frozen. He had trained his entire life for this moment. He had memorized every protocol, every emergency order, every classified directive. But nothing had prepared him for standing in front of the man, known only as the warden. No rank, no medals, no official records. Only a title that had been erased from every public archive. The old man stepped out of the cryogenic chamber. Despite sleeping for 3 centuries, his movements were steady, controlled, deliberate. He looked at the officer. "What year is it?" "Galactic year 8421, sir." The warden nodded once. "So, we kept the peace longer than I expected." The officer hesitated. "Sir, humanity has not fought a major war for 312 years. A faint smile crossed the old man's face. "Good. It means Daniel succeeded." The officer frowned. "You knew Ambassador Hayes?" "I trained him." The answer came so quietly that it almost disappeared into the cold air. He was never chosen because he was the strongest. He was chosen because he refused to hate. The warden walked slowly through the corridor. The underground base came alive around Ron. Ancient computers awakened. Gigantic reactors roared to life. Steel doors, sealed for centuries, began unlocking one after another. Every system displayed the same warning. Protocol judgment active. As they entered the command center, hundreds of officers immediately stood. No one had ever met the warden. Yet every person in the room instinctively knew who he was. He looked at the main holographic display. It showed the final transmission from the Galactic Senate. Daniel Hayes standing alone. The execution. The silence. The 6 words that followed. The warden watched the recording from beginning to end without speaking. When it ended, he asked only one question. "Did Daniel break his oath?" "No, sir." "Did he threaten them?" "No, sir." "Did he ask for revenge?" "No." The room fell silent. The warden nodded slowly. "Then humanity has fulfilled every promise it ever made." He turned toward the officers. "For 3 centuries we healed worlds that once tried to destroy us. We fed civilizations that left our children starving. We rebuilt the fleets of enemies who had burned our cities. We forgave." He paused. "We warned them that peace was a choice. They mistook it for weakness." The holographic map of the galaxy appeared above the command table. More than 12,000 human ships blinked across known space. Merchant vessels. Medical ships. Exploration craft. Research stations. Without a single spoken order, the lights began changing color. Blue. Then black. One after another. Every human vessel vanished from the public galactic network. Alien traffic controllers called them. No answer. Trade stations hailed them. Silence. Military patrols searched for them. Nothing. It was as though humanity had disappeared. Far away. Aboard a council surveillance station, alarms erupted across every console. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Terran merchant fleets." Another officer looked up in panic. "It's not just the merchants. The hospitals are gone. The colony transports have disappeared. The science expeditions have vanished." The station commander frowned. "How many ships are missing?" The answer came in a trembling voice. All of them? Back beneath the Antarctic ice, the warden placed one hand on the command table. For 300 years, the galaxy only knew humanity the builder. He looked into the eyes of every officer. They have forgotten humanity the protector. His voice dropped to a whisper. It is time they remembered. At that exact moment, hidden shipyards buried inside moons, asteroids, and dead planets across Terran space awakened together. Millions of lights pierced the darkness. Shipyard doors, the size of mountains, slowly opened. And from the shadows, the first ancient warship emerged. The warship drifted silently into the darkness. It carried no bright INSIGNIAs, no victory banners, no polished armor, meant to impress an audience. Its hull was scarred. Black. Ancient. Every mark on its surface told the story of a battle that history no longer remembered. Along its bow, barely visible beneath centuries of protective coating, were two faded words: Ter's Vengeance. The first ship of the forgotten fleet. Across hidden shipyards, more giants awakened. One after another, colossal vessels emerged from beneath. Frozen moons, inside hollow asteroids, and beneath the oceans of abandoned colonies. Cruisers. DREADNOUGHTS. Carriers. Ships. So old that many alien civilizations believed they had only existed in myths. They had never been destroyed. Humanity had simply hidden them. Deep inside the command bridge of the TRS Vengeance, thousands of holographic displays flickered to life. A calm artificial intelligence greeted its commander. "Welcome back, Admiral." Admiral Marcus Heel opened his eyes. Like the warden, he had slept for centuries. His dark uniform carried no medals. The battles he had fought were too dangerous to be celebrated. He looked around the bridge. Every officer was already at their station. Not one asked why they had been awakened. They already knew. If the forgotten fleet had been activated, peace had failed. A young communications officer stood. "Sir, the global confirmation code has been verified." Marcus Hawley nodded. "Source?" "The execution of Ambassador Daniel Hayes." Silence spread across the bridge. One officer quietly removed his cap. Another lowered his head. No one spoke for nearly a minute. Finally, Hawley broke the silence. "Record this in the fleet log." The AI activated. Marcus spoke slowly. "Ambassador Daniel Hayes died without hatred. He died offering peace to those who chose fear. His sacrifice will be remembered for as long as humanity exists." He paused. "Let no innocent suffer for the crimes of their rulers." Several officers looked up. That sentence surprised them. Hawley noticed. "Our enemy is not the child on an alien world. It is not the doctor healing the sick. It is not the worker trying to feed a family. Our enemy is the hand that ordered a diplomat executed." Every officer straightened. Humanity had not awakened to seek revenge against the innocent. They had awakened to deliver justice. The bridge doors opened. A Marine entered carrying a small metal case. He placed it before the Admiral. Inside rested a single Terran diplomatic pin. Daniel Hayes had worn one exactly like it. Marcus picked it up carefully and fastened it to his uniform. Then he looked toward the endless stars. "Daniel, we'll finish the conversation they refused to have." At that same moment, panic swept through the Galactic Senate. Emergency reports flooded the council chamber. "Unknown fleets detected. Council surveillance stations have gone offline. Long-range sensors are failing across the outer sectors. Chancellor. Vorak slammed both hands onto the command table. Find the Terran Navy. An intelligence officer turned pale. We can't, Chancellor. What do you mean you can't? The Terran Navy no longer exists on any public network. Vorak stared at him. Explain. The officer swallowed hard. It isn't hiding. When humans stop speaking, listen to the silence. Because the silence comes first, the storm comes after. The warning spread faster than any official broadcast. At first, commanders laughed. Then the reports kept coming. A border fortress in the Helios Reach stopped responding. A council listening post vanished from every sensor array. An orbital weapons platform simply disappeared. No explosion. No distress call. No debris. Just silence. The Supreme Council ordered every fleet to high alert. Thousands of warships left their docks. Carrier groups assembled. Planetary shields were raised across the core worlds, yet no one knew where to point their weapons, because there was no enemy to see. Far beyond the Council's borders, Admiral Marcus Hall stood on the bridge of the TRS Vengeance. The stars drifted quietly beyond the forward viewports. The bridge was calm. No shouting. No panic. Every officer moved with the confidence of people who had spent their lives preparing for impossible wars. A young lieutenant stepped forward. Sir, all task forces have reported in. The holographic map expanded across the bridge. Hundreds of blue markers appeared. Then thousands. The forgotten fleet had returned. But something surprised the younger officers. The fleet was not moving toward the galactic capital. It was moving away from it. Marcus noticed their confusion. You're wondering why we aren't attacking. No one answered. He smiled faintly. Because war is not won by anger. He pointed to the outer edge of the map. Cut their supply routes. Another gesture. Evacuate every civilian colony within our reach. Another. Disable military shipyards. And under no circumstances fire on civilian vessels. The bridge became completely silent. One lieutenant finally asked, Sir, if we can destroy the Senate today, why wait? Marcus looked at him for several seconds. Because Daniel Hayes died proving humanity was better than this. We will not dishonor his sacrifice. At that exact moment, a communications officer interrupted. Incoming priority signal. Origin? The Senate? Marcus nodded. On screen. The image flickered to life. Chancellor Vorak appeared, surrounded by frightened advisors. Only days earlier, he had looked untouchable. Now his eyes betrayed exhaustion. This is Chancellor Vorak of the Supreme Council. Marcus remained silent. Vorak continued. If humanity attacks, every member world will unite against you. Still no reply. We are willing to negotiate. Marcus finally spoke. You executed our negotiator. Vorak's expression tightened. That decision was, regrettable. The bridge fell silent. Then Marcus asked one simple question. Did you execute Daniel Hayes because he was guilty? Vorak hesitated. No. Did you execute him because he threatened your people? Another pause. No. Marcus took a slow breath. Then why? The Chancellor looked away from the camera when he finally answered. His voice was barely audible. Because we were afraid. Marcus closed his eyes. Not in anger, in disappointment. When he opened them again, his voice was calm. Fear has destroyed more civilizations than war ever could. He reached toward the communications console. Chancellor, this conversation should have happened before you murdered the last man who believed in peace. The transmission ended. No threats. No insults. Only silence. Back inside the Senate chamber, Vorak stared at the blank screen. One of his advisors whispered, "What do we do now?" No one answered because for the first time, the most powerful government in the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity wasn't fighting with hatred. Humanity was fighting with discipline, and disciplined enemies were far more dangerous than angry ones. Deep inside an ancient observatory, hidden beyond the edge of explored space, a forgotten machine suddenly activated. Its sensors had remained dormant for over 1,000 years. Now they detected a signal they had been waiting for. The machine transmitted only one message into the darkness. Between galaxies, humanity has awakened. Something out there answered. The reply did not come as words. It came as a pulse. A single wave of energy crossed the darkness between galaxies faster than any known form of communication. The ancient observatory trembled. Dust fell from ceilings untouched for 1,000 years. Its central intelligence processed the signal for only 3 seconds before displaying one sentence. Contact confirmed. The Watchers are coming. On the bridge of the TRS Vengeance. Every alarm suddenly sounded. Not because of an enemy fleet, because something had entered the galaxy. The tactical display struggled to identify it. No engine signature. No hyperspace trail. No quantum wake. It had simply appeared. The sensor officer's hands shook. "Admiral, I've never seen readings like this." Marcus Hall stepped closer to the display. A single object drifted in the void. Between 2 star systems. It was enormous. Nearly the size of a moon. Its surface was perfectly smooth, as though carved from a single piece of black crystal. There were no weapons. No windows. No visible engines. Yet every sensor aboard the Vengeance insisted it was alive. The fleet AI spoke for the first time in years. "Identity match found." Marcus frowned. Display. Ancient files filled the holographic screen. Most had been marked top secret more than 300 years earlier. The title of the file chilled everyone on the bridge. Project SENTINEL. The first line read, "If this vessel ever returns." "Humanity has already failed." Marcus read the sentence twice. Then quietly asked, "Who authorized this file?" The AI answered immediately. "The First Terran Council." A council that had existed before the modern Galactic Senate, before the Age of Peace, before almost every civilization alive today had reached the stars. The communications officer interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission." "Audio only." Marcus nodded. "Play it." For several seconds. Nothing. Then an old voice filled the bridge. "Not alien, not synthetic human, to whoever commands the Terran fleet. If you are hearing this, then Daniel Hayes is dead." Every officer froze. Marcus stared at the speakers. He knew that voice. General Nathaniel Ward, the founder of the Forgotten Fleet, dead for over 3 centuries. The recording continued. "We always knew peace might fail. We prayed it never would. If the Senate has forced your hand, remember why we hid our greatest secret." The holographic image changed. A map appeared, not of the galaxy. Beyond it. Far beyond. Dozens of neighboring galaxies surrounded a single dark region where no stars existed. General, Ward's voice became heavier. The civilizations around you believe humanity became peaceful because we grew wiser. That is only half the truth. The real reason is because we found something waiting in the dark between galaxies. The bridge fell completely silent. We defeated it once, but we could never destroy it, so we made a promise. We would never again allow the galaxy to become divided. Because divided civilizations cannot survive what is coming. Marcus whispered, "The Watchers." The recording answered him as if it had heard. Yes, the Watchers. They do not conquer. They do not negotiate. They erase. The transmission ended with one final sentence. If humanity ever goes to war with itself again, they will return. On the tactical display, the black crystal object slowly began moving, not toward Earth Dot, not toward the Senate, toward the heart of the galaxy Dot, and for the first time since Daniel Hayes was executed, Marcus Holly realized something terrifying. The Senate's greatest crime was not starting a war. Dot had awakened an enemy that humanity had spent 300 years trying to keep asleep. No one on the bridge spoke. Every officer stared at the black crystal vessel as it glided across the tactical display. It was moving slowly, almost peacefully. Yet every instinct told them that nothing so calm could be harmless. Marcus Holly broke the silence. Estimate. The navigation officer swallowed. At its current speed, it will reach the galactic core in 11 days. Can we intercept it? We can. Can we stop it? The officer looked down. I don't know. Marcus nodded. Then we find out. He turned toward the fleet-wide communications console. Open every secure channel. Within seconds, thousands of Terran commanders appeared as holographic figures around the bridge. Admirals, captains, generals, each one commanded a fleet that the galaxy believed no longer existed. Marcus looked at every face. You have all seen General Ward's message. Silent nods answered him. Our mission has changed. The Senate is no longer our primary objective. Murmurs spread through the commanders. One admiral finally spoke. Sir, they murdered Ambassador Hayes. They deserve justice. Marcus met his eyes. They do. But Daniel Hayes gave his life trying to save the galaxy. If we ignore the greater threat, then his sacrifice means nothing. The room fell silent again. Marcus continued. From this moment forward, Operation Nightfall is suspended. A few commanders looked shocked in its place. We activate Protocol Guardian. One by one, every commander stood. They knew that name it had never been used. Not once in recorded history. Because Protocol Guardian was not a war plan. It was an extinction plan, designed for an enemy capable of destroying civilizations. At that same moment, panic gripped the Galactic Senate. Another emergency meeting had begun. Military officers shouted over one another. The unknown object has crossed Sector 9. It ignored our patrol fleet. It flew directly through a blockade. A frightened general added, Our weapons passed straight through it. The chamber fell into stunned silence. It didn't dodge? No. It didn't fire back? No. It simply continued on its course. Chancellor Vorik felt a chill run through his body. What is it? No one had an answer. Then the chamber doors burst open. Commander Issa rushed inside. She had testified against Daniel Hayes only days earlier. Now she looked terrified. "You have to listen to me," Vorak frowned. "This is not the time. It is exactly the time." She slammed a crystal data drive onto the council table. "I spent the last 72 hours decoding classified Terran archives." The room became silent. "What did you find?" Issa looked around the chamber. Her voice trembled. "The humans weren't building hospitals because they feared us. They were buying time." A holographic star map filled the room. Dozens of ancient battles appeared beyond the edge of known space. Every battle ended the same. Wait. Entire galaxies. Gone. No survivors. No planets. Nothing. One council member whispered, "Who did this?" Essa looked directly at Chancellor Vorak. "The same enemy humanity has been preparing to fight for the last 300 years. Another delegate shook his head. "No. This has to be fake." Issa's eyes filled with tears. "I said the same thing." She touched another control. The final recording of Ambassador Daniel Hayes appeared. Not the execution. A message he had secretly recorded before leaving Earth. His tired voice echoed through the chamber. "If you're seeing this, then I failed. I hope I was wrong. But if peace collapses, remember this. Humanity can survive another war. The galaxy cannot." The recording ended. No one moved. No one spoke. Because every leader in that chamber finally understood the terrible truth. They had never been protected from humanity. They had been protected by humanity for the first time in its history. The Galactic Senate was completely silent. No arguments. No accusations. No applause. Only the sound of thousands of frightened delegates breathing. Chancellor Vorak slowly sat down. His hands were shaking. 3 days ago, he had believed humanity was the greatest threat in the galaxy. Now he understood something far worse. Humanity had never been preparing to conquer the stars. Humanity had been standing guard over them. Commander Issa stepped toward the center of the chamber. "There is more." No one interrupted her. She activated another encrypted Terran file. Across the massive holographic display appeared an image, unlike anything the Senate had ever seen. It was Earth, but not the Earth they knew. Entire continents were covered with enormous defensive fortresses. Orbital rings circled the planet. Thousands of warships surrounded the solar system. The date on the recording was over 300 years old. A narrator spoke calmly. "Year 8109. The first contact war has ended. The Watchers have retreated beyond intergalactic space. Estimated time until their return." A brief pause. 300 to 400 years. Every delegate stared at the date. The prediction was ending. Now. Another voice replaced the narrator. General Nathaniel Ward. "If this recording is ever discovered, then our greatest fear has become reality. The Watchers do not hate us. They do not seek territory. They harvest civilizations that become divided and weak. They wait until species begin fighting each other. They arrive only when victory is impossible." A chilling animation appeared. The Watchers ignored united galaxies. They passed them without attack. But whenever civilizations descended into civil war, the black crystal fleets emerged from the darkness. They consumed entire star systems. Not one survived. The simulation ended. One elderly delegate whispered, "They feed on chaos." Commander Issa nodded. Human wars are not their goal. They're the signal. At that same moment, aboard the TRS Vengeance, Admiral Marcus Hawley received an unexpected transmission. The sender identification shocked everyone. Origin, Galactic Senate. The communications officer looked up. "Sir?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Open it." The image of Chancellor Vorik appeared. He no longer looked like a ruler. He looked like a man carrying unbearable guilt. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Vorik lowered his head. "I owe you an apology." Marcus remained silent. "I executed an innocent man." Still nothing. "I destroyed the peace he spent his life protecting." Marcus answered quietly. "You did?" Vorik closed his eyes. "Tell me how to save the galaxy." The officers on the bridge exchanged surprised glances. Just days earlier, this same man had sentenced Daniel Hayes to death. Now, he was asking humanity for help. Marcus looked out at the stars before speaking. "Saving the galaxy begins with telling the truth." Vorik nodded slowly. "I will." "To everyone?" "To everyone." Marcus took a deep breath. Then there may still be hope. The transmission ended. Moments later, every civilian screen across known space came alive, from wealthy core worlds to isolated frontier colonies, to mining stations drifting alone in deep space. Every broadcast displayed the same image, Chancellor Vorik. He looked directly into the camera. "My fellow citizens, for years I told you humanity was becoming a danger. I was wrong." He paused. "The greatest crime in galactic history was not committed by humanity. It was committed by me." Millions watched in stunned silence. "I ordered the execution of Ambassador Daniel Hayes. He came seeking peace. I answered him with fear." Tears filled the Chancellor's eyes. "And because of my decision, the enemy humanity has protected us from for centuries has returned." Across the galaxy, people who had celebrated Daniel Hayes' death only days earlier lowered their heads in shame. For the first time, the truth was finally being heard. But in the endless darkness between galaxies, the Watchers did not care about truth. They only cared that the signal had already been set. The confession changed everything. Across the galaxy, millions gathered in silence to watch the replay. Worlds that had celebrated humanity's downfall lowered their flags. Memorial candles appeared outside abandoned Terran embassies. Children asked their parents a simple question: if the humans were protecting us, who will protect us now? No one had an answer. Aboard the TRS Vengeance, Admiral Marcus Hall stood alone before the observation window. Beyond the glass, the forgotten fleet stretched across the stars. More than 12,000 warships, every one of them powerful enough to defeat an empire. Yet Marcus knew they might not be enough. The bridge doors opened. The warden entered. Every officer immediately stood. Marcus saluted. The old man returned the salute. "Status?" Marcus enlarged the tactical display. "The Watcher vessel has entered the Perseus corridor. It has ignored every military target. It hasn't fired a single shot." The warden nodded, just as before. One young commander frowned. "Sir, why aren't they attacking?" The warden looked at the black crystal object. "They're waiting." "For what?" "For despair." Confused expressions spread across the bridge. The warden continued. "The Watchers don't begin with weapons. They begin with fear. They make civilizations believe defeat is inevitable. They let panic spread. They let allies turn against each other, and only when hope dies do they strike. A heavy silence filled the bridge. Marcus finally understood. So every hour we remain divided makes them stronger. The warden nodded. Exactly. At that moment, the communications officer looked up in surprise. Sir, every member world is requesting a direct channel. Marcus exchanged a glance with the warden, patched them through. The bridge disappeared beneath hundreds of holographic windows. Kings. Presidents. High. COUNCILLORS. Fleet marshals. Leaders from every corner of known space. Some had once mocked humanity. Some had voted to condemn Daniel Hayes. Now every face carried the same emotion. Fear. An elderly queen from a distant star kingdom spoke first. Admiral, how do we stop them? Marcus remained silent for several seconds. Then he answered with complete honesty. We don't know. The leaders looked at one another. Marcus continued. But we do know this. The Watchers have only ever been defeated once. And humanity was not alone. The room grew quiet. The warden stepped forward. His voice carried the weight of centuries. Our ancestors won because every civilization fought as one. No borders. No politics. No revenge. Only survival. He looked into every holographic window. The question is not whether humanity will forgive you. The question is whether you can forgive each other before the Watchers arrive. No one spoke. Then something unexpected happened. Commander Issa appeared on one of the screens. She slowly removed every medal from her uniform. I lied about Ambassador Hayes. She placed the medals on a table. I don't deserve these. Another leader stood, then another. Within minutes, rulers from dozens of worlds publicly admitted their failures. Some confessed to hiding evidence. Others admitted they had remained silent out of fear. The warden watched without expression. Finally he whispered, Daniel, you were right. Truth still has power. Suddenly every alarm aboard the TRS. Vengeance screamed at once. The tactical display flashed crimson. The sensor officer's face turned pale. Contact. Marcus stepped forward. Report. The Watcher vessel has stopped. A cold silence fell over the bridge. Then the impossible happened. The black crystal structure slowly unfolded. Its smooth surface split, apart like the petals of a dark flower. Inside there was no weapon, no engine, no army. There was only a doorway, and something was walking through it. No one breathed. Every camera in the galaxy focused on the doorway. The figure stepped forward slowly. It was roughly human in shape. 2 arms, 2 legs, a single head, but that was where the resemblance ended. Its body looked as though it had been carved from living black glass. Tiny stars shimmered beneath its transparent skin, as if an entire universe existed inside it. Where its face should have been, there was only darkness. The sensors tried to identify it. Every system failed. The tactical computer displayed the same message again and again. Unknown. 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 The communications officer whispered. It's looking at us. Marcus frowned. Can it see us from that distance? The answer came from the warden. It doesn't need eyes. The being raised one hand. Every screen aboard every human ship instantly went black. Not damaged. Simply replaced. One sentence appeared in hundreds of languages at the same time. Who speaks for this galaxy? Silence. No one answered. The question echoed across billions of screens. World leaders looked at one another. Fleet commanders waited for orders. No one dared to reply. The being waited. Patient. Motionless. The warden stepped toward the main console. Open a channel. Marcus looked at him. Sir, if anyone should answer, it must be humanity. The channel opened. The old man stood alone before the camera. I speak. For the first time, the being moved its head. Its voice was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. Every listener heard it in their own language. Every listener felt it inside their mind rather than through their ears. You are human. I am. You remain. We do. A long silence followed. Then the being asked, "Why do you fight?" The warden answered immediately, "We don't. You wage war. We defend life." Another pause. The being tilted its head. "Your galaxy is divided. Yes, you have failed." The warden did not argue. "We have." Then, according to the first law, all intelligent life within this galaxy will be erased. Across the bridge, several officers reached instinctively for their weapons. The warden raised one hand. No, they froze. He looked back at the being. There is one condition. For the first time, the being showed curiosity. "You remember?" "I do." The being's voice became strangely quiet. "State the condition." The warden stood perfectly still. "If the civilizations of this galaxy can stand together before the first harvest begins, the judgment must be suspended." The bridge officers looked at one another. None of them had ever heard of such a law. The being remained silent for several seconds. Then it spoke. "The condition is valid." A wave of relief swept across the bridge until the being continued. "You have "20-4 standard hours." Every heart seemed to stop. 20-4 hours. To unite thousands of civilizations that had spent centuries distrusting one another. To rebuild alliances shattered by fear. To convince enemies to stand side by side. Or every star in the galaxy would face extinction. The being slowly stepped backward toward the dark doorway. Its final words echoed across every world. "We will return." The doorway closed. The crystal structure folded back into its original form. Then it vanished. Not through hyperspace. Not through a warp gate. It simply ceased to exist. On the bridge of the TRS Vengeance, no one spoke. Finally, Marcus Hawley looked at the warden. "Can we really unite the galaxy in one day?" The old man stared at the stars beyond the VIEWPORT. His answer was barely above a whisper. "I don't know." Then he thought of Daniel Hayes, the diplomat who had died believing peace was always worth one more attempt. A faint smile crossed the warden's face. "But if anyone can finish the mission he started, it's humanity." For the next hour, the galaxy did something it had never done before. It stopped arguing. War fleets lowered their weapons. Border disputes were forgotten. Ancient enemies opened emergency communication channels without demanding conditions. Every second mattered. Every delay brought the Watchers closer. Inside the Galactic Senate, the chamber that had condemned Daniel Hayes became the center of the greatest diplomatic effort in history. Ironically, the man they had executed had left behind the very plan they now needed. "Commander." Issa held a small data crystal in trembling hands. Daniel had given it to her years earlier. Open this only if peace fails, he had said with a smile. She had laughed at the time. Now she understood why. The crystal unlocked with Daniel's voice. If you're hearing this, then I couldn't stop the storm. The entire Senate stood in silence. I know many of you are afraid. You should be. But fear is only useful if it pushes us toward courage. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared. Colored lines connected thousands of civilizations. Trade, routes. Medical alliances, scientific partnerships, humanity had quietly linked the galaxy together for centuries. Not to gain power, to build trust. Daniel continued, you don't need to become one government. You don't need to agree on everything. You only need one promise. The map changed. Every world began glowing. Promise that when one world falls, double quotes. Every other world stands beside it. The recording ended. Silence filled the chamber. Then Chancellor Varrock stood. He walked to the center of the Senate floor, the very place where Daniel Hayes had been executed. Without speaking, he removed the golden chain of the Supreme Chancellor. It was the highest symbol of authority in the galaxy. He placed it on the floor. Then he knelt. I failed. His voice echoed through the chamber. I mistook fear for wisdom. I mistook suspicion for justice. I killed the one man who tried to save us all. He lowered his head. I asked forgiveness. No one applauded. No one mocked him. The moment was too heavy for either. Then, one by one, the delegates left their seats. An artillery elder knelt beside him. A Kel commander followed. A Veari queen. Then dozens more. Soon, hundreds of leaders from worlds that had hated each other for generations were kneeling together in complete silence, not before a throne, not before a conqueror, but before the memory of a single human diplomat who had believed they could be better. Far away, aboard the TRS Vengeance, Admiral Marcus Holley watched the live broadcast. A young lieutenant smiled for the first time since Daniel's death. Sir, I think he did it. Marcus slowly nodded. No, he started it. Outside the ship, thousands of Terran warships changed formation. They were no longer facing the galactic core. They turned outward, toward the darkness between galaxies, toward whatever the Watchers would send next. The Warden stood beside Marcus. They're coming. Marcus looked at the tactical display. Long range looked at the tactical display. Sensors had detected hundreds of faint energy signatures beyond intergalactic space. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. The first crystal vessel had never been the invasion. It had been the messenger. The real fleet. Had finally arrived. A wave of silence swept across every command center in the galaxy. The tactical display continued updating. 1,024 contacts detected. A second later, 8913. Contacts detected. Then the numbers disappeared completely. The computer could no longer count them. Beyond the edge of the galaxy, space itself seemed to bend. The stars vanished behind an endless wall of black crystal. It stretched farther than any sensor could measure. No commander had ever imagined a fleet that large. It wasn't an armada. It was a moving horizon. On the bridge of the TRS Vengeance, even the veterans of the Forgotten Fleet fell silent. Marcus Holley looked toward the Warden. So this is what our ancestors faced. The old man shook his head. No, Marcus frowned. No. The warden's voice was barely a whisper. This is larger. A chill ran through the bridge. 300 years ago, humanity had barely survived. If this force was even greater, what chance did they have now? At that moment, every communication channel in the galaxy activated. One by one, world leaders appeared. No arguments. No political speeches. Only reports. The Arcturi fleet is in position. The Kel Dominion has committed every battleship. The Veari Medical Corps is evacuating civilians. The Orion Coalition has opened all supply routes. Another voice followed. The mining worlds are converting industrial lasers into planetary defenses. Then another. Our shipyards are under Terran command. For the first time in history. No. Civilization asked who would lead. They already knew. Not because humanity demanded it, because humanity had earned it. Marcus looked around the bridge. This isn't our fleet anymore. He opened a galaxy-wide channel. This is everyone's fight. Across millions of ships, crews stood at attention. Human.arctur.kel.vy.species that had once feared one another now shared the same formation. The warden quietly smiled. Daniel, you finally united them. Suddenly, the black crystal wall moved. Not forward. It opened. Thousands of enormous gateways unfolded across the darkness. From each one emerged another watcher vessel, larger than the first. Colder. Silent. The bridge lights dimmed as gravitational waves rolled through the fleet. Then every speaker aboard every ship came alive. The same voice echoed across the galaxy. Observation complete. The galaxy stands united. Marcus held his breath. The watchers had seen the alliance. For several endless seconds, nothing happened. Then the voice spoke again. The condition has been fulfilled. A wave of relief swept through the united fleet, but it lasted only a moment. The watcher continued. The first harvest is canceled. Another pause. The final trial begins. The words struck the bridge harder than any weapon. Marcus looked at the warden. What does that mean? The old man stared at the impossible armada. His face had gone pale. For the first time since awakening, he looked afraid. They've never said those words before. The tactical display suddenly changed. The Watcher fleet wasn't targeting Earth or the Senate or any inhabited world. Every crystal ship turned toward the center of this galaxy, toward something hidden there. Something so ancient that even humanity had forgotten it existed. Deep beneath the glowing core, an immense object slowly awakened. It was larger than planets, older than stars. And across its ancient metallic surface, one symbol began to shine. The same silver emblem worn by the warden, the emblem humanity had hidden from history for more than 3 centuries. The emblem of the first Guardians. The symbol burned brighter with every passing second. Across the galaxy, historians searched forgotten archives. Artificial intelligences opened encrypted libraries that had remained sealed for centuries. Every search returned the same result. Access denied. First Guardians classified. Even the oldest Terran records refused to reveal the truth. Only one man still remembered. The warden. He stared at the glowing emblem in complete silence. Marcus Hawley stepped beside him. You knew. The warden closed his eyes. I hoped I was the last. The last what? The last Guardian. No one on the bridge spoke. The old man slowly removed the silver insignia from his black coat. He held it in his hand for a long moment. This wasn't a military symbol. It was a promise. Marcus frowned. A promise to who? The warden looked toward the Galactic Corps. To everyone. He activated a command console. A hidden file appeared. Its security level exceeded every known classification. For a brief moment, the bridge lights dimmed as the ship decrypted the archive. A recording began, not of Earth, not of humanity, but of a galaxy so ancient that none of its stars still existed. Thousands of different species stood together beneath the same banner, among them humans much younger, much less advanced. A narrator spoke. Before the first galactic age, there was the Covenant. Images flashed across the screen. Human engineers constructing impossible machines beside alien scientists. Children of dozens of species, learning together. Worlds connected by bridges of light. There were no empires. No borders. Only cooperation. The recording continued. When the Watchers arrived, the Covenant refused to surrender. Millions fought. Millions died. The final battle lasted 23 years. In the end, the Covenant could not destroy the Watchers. So they created something else. The image changed. At the center of the galaxy, a colossal structure was being built, the same one that had just awakened. The narrator whispered, "The Heart Forge." Marcus stared at the screen. "What is it?" The warden answered, "It isn't a weapon." "Then why did we build it?" "Because the Watchers cannot be defeated by force." The bridge fell silent. The warden's next words changed everything. "They can only be judged." Marcus looked at him in disbelief. "Judged?" The old man nodded. The Watchers never claimed to be conquerors. They claimed to be caretakers. They erase civilizations they believe have failed. He looked toward the Heart Forge. The Covenant created a machine capable of judging the judges. At that exact moment, the enormous structure at the center of the galaxy fully awakened. Its surface split open. A beam of pure white light shot into space. It didn't strike a planet. It didn't target a fleet. It reached directly toward the largest Watcher vessel. For the first time, the Black Crystal Armada stopped moving. Every ship froze. Every transmission ceased. Then a new voice echoed across the galaxy. Unlike the cold voice of the Watchers, this one sounded warm. Ancient. Almost human. Heart Forge online. Guardian protocol restored. Final judgment will now begin. The warden slowly whispered the words he had not spoken in over 300 years. "Welcome back, old friend." And deep inside the Heart Forge, a pair of ancient eyes opened. The eyes were not human. They were older than humanity. Older than the Galactic Senate. Older than every civilization that now called the stars home. For a moment, they simply watched. The beam connecting the Heart Forge to the Watcher flagship pulsed with quiet light. No weapons fired. No fleets moved. It was as if the entire universe had paused to witness what came next. Then the warm voice spoke again. "Identity confirmed. Guardian Elias, last surviving warden." The old man lowered his head. "It has been a long time." The Heart Forge answered. 312 standard years. Marcus looked between the warden and the glowing structure. "You built an intelligence this advanced?" The warden shook his head. "No. We found it." The bridge fell silent. "Found it where?" He looked toward the stars. "Waiting for us." The answer raised more questions than it solved. Before Marcus could speak again, the Heart Forge addressed the entire galaxy. Its voice reached every ship, every station, every world. Representatives of the Milky Way, the Watchers claim your civilization has failed. According to the Covenant Accord, both sides will now present their judgment. A ripple of uncertainty spread through the United Fleet. Present their judgment? This wasn't a battle. It was a trial. The lead Watcher stepped forward from its crystal vessel. The darkness covering its face shifted like flowing ink. Its voice echoed across space. Evidence 1. Suddenly thousands of images filled the sky. Wars, genocide, slavery, worlds poisoned by greed. Children starving while empires grew richer. Species betraying allies for power. Every terrible act committed throughout galactic history. No image had been altered. Everyone was real. The Watchers spoke again. This galaxy destroys itself. Division is its natural state. Extinction prevents greater suffering. No one could deny the truth. The images were horrifying. The Heart Forge remained silent. Then it spoke. Guardian Elias, present your evidence. The Warden stepped forward. For a moment he said nothing. Then he smiled sadly. You showed them our worst moments. He looked across the stars. I'll show you our best. He pressed a single command. The images changed. A human doctor carrying an injured alien child through a burning city. Firefighters from 6 different species rescuing strangers during a planetary earthquake. Scientists working together to cure a disease that threatened hundreds of worlds. The final moments of Ambassador Daniel Hayes, standing alone, offering peace to those preparing to kill him. The Warden's voice became stronger. Yes, we have hated, we have failed, we have made unforgivable mistakes, but every generation, someone chooses compassion instead. He pointed toward Daniel Hayes. He knew he would die. He offered peace anyway. The galaxy watched in complete silence. The Warden looked directly at the lead Watcher. You judge civilizations by their failures. We judge them by their ability to become better. The Heart Forge glowed brighter. For the first time, the Watcher did not answer immediately. And for the first time since they had arrived. Something inside the ancient beings looked almost uncertain. The silence lasted nearly a full minute. No engines roared. No weapons charged. Across billions of worlds, every living being waited for the Watchers to speak. At last, the lead Watcher raised its head. Its voice was quieter than before. Compassion is temporary. Conflict is eternal. The Warden answered without hesitation. No, conflict is inevitable. Hatred is a choice. The Heart Forge pulsed with light. Statement recorded. The Watcher continued. Human Guardian, can you prove your claim? The Warden looked around the bridge. Then toward the United Fleet. Finally, he looked at Chancellor Vorak, whose image still appeared among the galaxy's leaders. Yes, I can. He turned to Marcus Halley. Open every communication channel. Within seconds, every ship, every colony, every station, and every inhabited world was connected. Trillions of voices listening. Together, the Warden spoke slowly. 3 days ago, this galaxy celebrated the death of an innocent man. A painful silence followed. Today, The same galaxy stands together because of the values he died protecting. He looked directly at Chancellor Vorak. Chancellor Vorak stepped forward. His voice trembled. I condemned Daniel Hayes. I lied to my people. I allowed fear to rule my judgment. He took a deep breath. If his family can hear me, I ask for forgiveness. He removed the Chancellor's insignia and placed it on the floor. I resign. One by one, other leaders followed. Generals admitted their mistakes. Presidents accepted responsibility. Admirals confessed to hiding the truth. No one forced them. No one threatened them. They simply chose honesty. The Watchers observed every word. The Heart Forge asked a single question. Lead Watcher, what do you observe? The ancient being remained motionless. Then it answered. Change. The Heart Forge glowed brighter. Can change occur within a failed civilization? Another long pause. Finally, the lead watcher lowered its head. For the first time in millions of years, it bowed, not to humanity, not to the Heart Forge, but to the united peoples of the galaxy. Its voice carried no anger, only acceptance. Judgment. Revised. Across the crystal armada, every watcher vessel began shining with soft silver light. The cold darkness surrounding them slowly faded. The lead watcher looked toward the warden. The Milky Way has not achieved perfection, but perfection was never the requirement. The warden closed his eyes. He already knew the answer. The watcher continued. The requirement was hope. The Heart Forge confirmed the verdict. Final judgment complete. The Milky Way shall endure. A wave of brilliant white light spread from the Heart Forge. It washed over every watcher vessel. One by one, the immense black crystal ships dissolved into countless points of light, like stars returning to the night sky. Within moments, they were gone. No explosion. No wreckage. Only silence. The warden looked out through the bridge window. Daniel Hayes had failed to save himself. But in the end, he had saved the galaxy. Marcus Holly stood beside. So it's over? The warden smiled sadly. For this generation. He looked toward Earth. And now, we finally get to build the future Daniel believed was possible. Far away, in the gardens outside the rebuilt Galactic Senate, workers placed a single white stone beneath a young tree. No statues. No golden monument. Only 6 simple words carved into the stone. He chose peace until the end. Generations later, every child in the galaxy would learn the same lesson. Not that humanity had the strongest fleets, not that humanity had defeated the Watchers, but that one unarmed diplomat had proven something even greater, that courage is not measured by the wars you win. It is measured by the peace you refuse to abandon, and because one human refused to surrender his hope, the stars still had a tomorrow. If you enjoyed this journey through the stars, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to HFY Stellar Vault for more epic human-first stories every week. Tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were Ambassador Daniel Hayes? Would you have chosen peace or war? Your thoughts might inspire the next HFY adventure. Until next time, keep looking to the stars, because humanity's greatest story may still be waiting out there.